Hi, we're trading up, and on today's conversation starter, we're going to talk about on-demand liquidity. What is it? And how does on-demand liquidity and XRP work together? First of all, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. I encourage you to do your own research. Well, let's get started. What is on-demand liquidity? Well, on-demand liquidity, or ODL, is a system that is powered or built by Ripple using XRP as a bridge currency that lets financial institutions send large amounts of money instantly across borders without pre-funding foreign bank accounts. Traditionally, banks must keep large amounts of cash parked in what are called nostro vostro accounts around the world just to move money internationally. That's generally slow, expensive, and capital inefficient because those large amounts of money could be used elsewhere. On-demand liquidity replaces that trapped liquidity with XRP. Now I'm going to talk about how that happens. Let me get my little pointer here, and we're going to talk about an example. Okay, an example of using XRP as on-demand liquidity would be, for example, sending money from the US to Mexico. Okay, for example, we're sending money from the US to Mexico. All right. Now, first of all, a US institution sends USD to a crypto exchange. Here would be the crypto exchange. USD is instantly converted to now XRP. XRP sent across the XRP ledger takes from 3 to 5 seconds. XRP moves across borders almost instantly. There are no intermediary banks, and it's near zero transaction fees. Then XRP is converted into Mexican pesos on a local exchange. So our XRP goes to the local exchange and it's converted to the Mexican peso right here. And then funds are delivered directly to the recipient. So whoever the money is being sent to, that's where it goes. XRP is only held for seconds, so price volatility risk is minimal. I think that's an awesome example to see how money is sent from the US to another country and how XRP is like a bridge between the two countries, and that on-demand liquidity flows through XRP to convert that money to, in this example, the Mexican peso. All right. So without XRP, institutions would still need to pre-fund these accounts. They would also need to rely totally on SWIFT, which is the current way that money is transferred. And also, settlement would take days. So XRP isn't just a token, it acts as a bridge asset between currencies. All right. So let's take a look at how on-demand liquidity affects XRP's value. So as more banks, payment companies, and institutions move or transfer money, they'll use the liquidity that flows through XRP. As more money flows through XRP, there's several things that's going to happen. More XRP liquidity is required. there will be higher transaction demand for XRP. So, therefore, it will increase the need for XRP. Also, there will be increased real world utility, not just speculation. And XRP ultimately becomes infrastructure for the um, for the financial world or for financial transactions, not just an asset. For example, on-demand liquidity is already live in multiple corridors, especially where liquidity is costly, with payment providers such as MoneyGram, Tranglo, SBI Remit, and Bitso. Bitso is the Mexican corridor. Also, there are regions that are already active with on-demand liquidity use using XRP. For example, from transferring money from the US to Mexico, from the US to the Philippines, or from Europe to Africa, as well as through the Asia Pacific corridors. Banks tend to move slower, but payment providers and fintechs are leading the adoption. And you could imagine that banks, they will have a hard time getting on board with the XRP ledger using XRP. Oftentimes, that's where they make a lot of their money. XRP eliminates the need for banks. So here I have a chart that compares the two: on-demand liquidity using XRP versus traditional banking. So let's take a look at some of these things right here. So as far as settlement, traditional banking takes 1 to 5 days. XRP settles in 3 to 5 seconds. That's amazing. The fees are high for traditional banking. For XRP, the fees are very low. Okay. Pre-funding accounts, those Nostro Vostro accounts for traditional banking, it's required. Using XRP on the XRP ledger, it's not needed. So capital is freed up. All right, sending or transferring money using the traditional banking system, there are multiple intermediaries. With XRP, there are no intermediaries. You can send and transfer money directly. And also, there's also limited transparency with these transactions with traditional banking rails. With XRP, uh, you're using the XRP ledger. There is full, and that's the blockchain, so there is full visibility. Every transaction would be fully visible. So when we think about it, using on-demand liquidity, using XRP, it turns XRP into a real-time global liquidity engine. We'll be able to move money, large amounts of money, fast at a low cost. XRP acts as a temporary bridge asset, and the value comes from volume, speed, and necessity. So the more cross-border payments move on-demand liquidity, the more critical XRP becomes. So XRP has the potential to become a major part of the uh, upcoming financial infrastructure. So I hope this information helps you to become more prepared as our financial infrastructure changes so that we will not be surprised. All right, until next time, take care.